Okay, Genesis 22. This chapter is entitled, God Plays a Dirty Trick on Abraham. One day, God is sitting up in the heavens and thinks, I wonder just how far I could push Abraham's devotion. He's been pretty obedient so far, but how heinous of a thing would I be able to get him to do to kiss my butt? I know, filicide. I'll tell him that if he really loves me, he'll sacrifice and burn a child. I'll go one further and make it his only son, Isaac. So down to earth he goes to deliver this chore, and sure enough, without batting an eye, Abraham ties up Isaac, plops him on the altar, races a dagger over the kid's body, and prepares to slit his throat. Just before running him through, an angel tells him, "We were just teasing you, testing you. You can forget it. Good boy. Since you're so willing to slaughter an innocent child for God, he'll make sure your descendants breed like rabbits." A ram happens to wander past, so he sacrifices that instead. For reasons that defy comprehension, Christians and Hebrews seem to think that this displays a strong character in Abraham. But any ethical person's reaction would be, "Are you nuts?" There are three evil things that I've highlighted in this bit. This is a threat of murder from God and an attempted infanticide from Abraham, which is also unspeakable emotional child abuse from which a child might not ever recover. Why didn't God tell Abraham to commit suicide or chop off his own schwanky? No one should worship a God that says to murder children. An admirable response from Abraham would have been, "Yeah, screw that. I'd rather burn in hell for all eternity." Instead, Abraham is so selfish, he's willing to kill children to look good for God, and God's egocentrism is so colossal that he freely subjects his followers to psychological trauma so he can feel good about himself. Any father, or priest, or parent today that finds this story admirable should have no qualms in laying down his own kids, brandishing a long, sharp knife over them and saying, "Just so you know, little Johnny, at a moment's notice, if an invisible man tells me to, I'm going to kill you by slitting your throat. It'll hurt like hell as you die in agony, screaming in pain, but only until you pass out from blood loss." That's a way of showing devotion. Sleep tight. I challenge any preacher, anywhere, to encourage their congregation to do this with the police and lawyers present. Outside of the atrocious behavior in this tale, there is one technical problem with it. Isaac is not Abraham's only son. There's Ishmael, the first one from his second wife Hagar that God told him was just as important as any from his first wife Sarah. Now, Ishmael wasn't on hand for this particular escapade, but only because Abraham had sent him and his mother off to die, in the desert. It's odd these biblical characters always sacrifice the indefensible. If a total stranger walked up to you on the street and said that God told them to sacrifice you, would you willingly volunteer? If a murderer did sacrifice a child and said, "A voice in my head, told me to as an alibi," they'd lock him up in the loony bin. What really happened here, if indeed this story happened at all, is that Abraham was probably a nutjob devoid of any empathy or pity. Lacking the ability to truly discern right from wrong, he adhered to the rules without question. One day, when there are no animals around to sacrifice, he thinks, well, God must be telling me this child is going to, will have to do. At the last minute, a ram walks by, so he thinks God changed his mind. Remember, the biblical text, at least in the King James Bible, never once says he feels bad about doing this. With some elaboration from later biblical scribes, this horrible story is turned around to look like a morality tale. Well, not in my book, it doesn't.